The House Judiciary Committee will come to order. A quorum is present. The chair asks unanimous consent that Mr. Lawler of New York be seated on the subcommittee for the hearing. Is there any objection? Hearing none, Mr. Lawler, welcome to the subcommittee. The Immigration Subcommittee meets today to hear testimony on the effect of the ongoing border crisis that began on Inauguration Day of 2021. We have four witnesses with us today who are going to testify to the effect that this is having on the social services of our cities, as well as the tragedies that it is causing for our citizens. With that, we will begin with our first witness is Chief Rodney Scott, formerly the Chief of the Border Patrol of the United States. Mr. Scott, we welcome you to the hearing today and recognize you. Oh, I'm sorry, we're going to start with, see, that's what happens when I go scriptless. I will actually begin with opening statements, and I'll begin with myself. When President Biden canceled construction of the border wall and ordered ICE not to enforce court-ordered deportations, we have seen 2.1 million illegal immigrants unlawfully admitted to the United States by this administration. That is a population larger than the entire state of Nebraska. And while that's been going on, an additional 1.5 million known gotaways have entered while the Border Patrol has been overwhelmed. That's an additional illegal population larger than the state of Hawaii. Combined, that's 3.6 million illegal migrants admitted to our country. That's larger than the population of 20 of our states, and that's just in 28 months. The danger of this policy should be self-evident. When the president surrendered unconditionally to the Taliban and abandoned Bagram Air Base in the middle of the night, he released 5,000 of the most dangerous terrorists on the planet who were detained there. We know where one went. 10 days later, he went to Abbey Gate at Kabul airport and detonated the bomb that killed 13 U.S. Marines. We know that nearly 200 individuals on the terrorist watch list were apprehended by the Border Patrol in 2022 and 2023, compared to just 14 in all 4 years of the Trump administration combined. What we don't know is how many more are among the 1.5 million known gotaways. Now, HHS Secretary Javier Becerra told his staff that he demanded a rapid release of illegal migrants into the country. He compared it to an assembly line, and he warned subordinates that if they didn't move faster, he'd find others who would. The lack of any serious vetting of those entering our country is producing tragic results for families like that of Kayla Hamilton, whose grieving mother we will hear from today. In her case, a 17-year-old MS-13 gang member was released into the United States as an unaccompanied alien child. Kayla Hamilton is dead as a result. Police investigating her murder noticed her assailant had gang tattoos, and one call to El Salvadorian authorities confirmed he was a known MS-13 gang member, something federal officials never bothered to ask, as they recklessly allowed him to enter the United States. Drug trafficking now produces an average of 200 fentanyl deaths in the United States every day, the equivalent of a passenger jet crashing every day. Just a few days of such carnage would ground every aircraft in America. But we're told that human trafficking is now becoming an even more profitable business to the cartels than drugs. Illegal migrants arrive deeply in debt to the cartels, whose violent gangs are proliferating in our cities to enforce these debts. In places like Tulare County, California, just outside of my district, we're starting to see cartel executions of entire families, including, in this case, a mom shot through the head as she shielded her baby. Every Border Patrol officer says the same thing. This is no longer a border problem. If it hasn't already come to your community, it soon will. I'm afraid this will culminate either in a terrorist attack by elements that have come in through our border or the kind of cartel gun battles breaking out in cities that have already become commonplace in Mexico. Now, this is not to paint every illegal migrant as a gang member or terrorist, but the Biden open borders policy is clearly allowing many dangerous gang members, terrorists, and criminals into our country, and he doesn't seem to care about the resulting damage. Meanwhile, the social safety net meant to help Americans in need is collapsing under the weight of millions of desperate, destitute, and dependent illegal migrants who are flooding our country. New York City has now turned as many as 20 public school gymnasiums into hotels for illegal aliens. Recess is canceled because single adult men are sleeping on cots in gyms intended for school children. We've heard from food pantries whose supplies are exhausted because of the explosion of illegal migrants. We've heard from hospital administrators at the border who've had to tell American citizens that they have no room for them because they're overwhelmed by migrants. And we hear from law enforcement of the increasing presence of criminal cartels and foreign gangs in their communities. Yet the Democrats' witness is going to tell us a solution: simply spend more money and process illegal migrants faster. This is lunacy. It is a crime to illegally enter the United States. Federal law requires every asylum claimant to be detained until their case is heard and to be deported if it's rejected. But this administration simply ignores the law. Now, these first hearings have examined the effect of these policies. Over the next few weeks, we will turn our attention to the cause, what laws are being violated and by whom. And with that, I'm pleased to recognize the ranking member of the subcommittee, Ms. Jayapal, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr.